Welcome to the Big House Breakdown, all things Michigan football. I am your host, the Vic. Ready to welcome you into this preview of the latest Week 6 editions of the college football season with a significant focus on Michigan football. Um, we're here. We're going to knock it out the park today. We're blasting off to 5 channels today, not our usual 15, but that's all right. We'll take it. And we want you to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on all your notifications and share this. I said that twice. So that every time we have a Big House Breakdown show, college football show, you guys can join us and we could break it down so it could forever be broke. All right, so thanking some sponsors, Total Package Energy. Make sure you cash mob their site, totalpackageenergy.com. They got waters, powders, gels, teas, everything you need for speed to avoid that 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock crash to get you through the second half of your workday. Total Package Energy. Also, Redeem Vacations. Make sure you go check them out. Bring 5 people to the Big House Breakdown, courtesy of yourself. Receive a here's 5-night, 4-day accommodation, courtesy of Redeem Vacations and the Real HD Show. Also, make sure when you can, check out Bats. Bats are an original shoe, an original sneaker, revolutionary sole technology, patented by melanated people out of the Lou. That's right, NOLA, baby. Check out Bats at a shoe store near you. Ice Spice already wants a pair. Not trying to name drop. We just trying to get it done. Welcome to the Big House Breakdown. And we're going to get into because we're here for this today. Let me get to we're here to talk about the preview of Washington versus Michigan at Washington Stadium. But before we do that, what we like to do on the show is, before we get to the nitty gritty of what Michigan football is all about, because that takes up the bulk of the show, we like to get into what we call college football now. That means we're going to do a landscape of what's popping and what's crack-a-lacking in college football as we speak. And that way everybody can be made aware of what their favorite team is doing, the risers, the fallers, the contenders, the pretenders within the college football season. We are entering week 6. So that means we played 5 weeks in the books. Michigan is 4-1, looking to make it 5-1 on a West Coast trip. And we're going to show you what college football looks like today. So let's go through the standings, okay? Let's check that out. So I'm going to enlarge my screen, and we'll talk about stock up, stock down throughout the world of college football. I hope everybody can see that. If you can't, put it in the chat that you can't see it. Number 1 is Alabama, stock up. Texas, stock up. Ohio State, stock up. They got to play somebody, though. Number 4, Texas, stock up. Number 5, Georgia, stock down after that thrilling loss to Alabama. Georgia made a lot of mistakes in that game. Too much ebb and flow. Number 6, Oregon. Number 7, Penn State. They have to play somebody. Number 8, Miami, 5-0. They look for real. We got to see what they do with better competition. This Missouri team at 9 is really interesting. Michigan, number 10, battle-tested. Have to clean up some sloppy play in the second half of some games, but they got all the tools to do what they need to do. Number 11, USC, really good offense. Scrappy defense, 3-1. Number 12, Ole Miss, stock down. Number 13, LSU, stock down. Not really happy with those guys. Kind of cruising, kind of on cruise control, if you understand what I'm saying. So now we'll get into the rest of the top 20, as it were. Let's get into. All right, there we go. So we got 14, Notre Dame, stock down. They've been underperforming almost every year for the last 3 or 4 years. Clemson, stock down. Same. Iowa, stock up. BYU, stock up. They're an interesting team at 5-0. See if they're willing to play somebody. The gully Utah Utes, stock up. They took that 1L, but they're licking their wounds and they're coming back in a great way. Oklahoma, stock up because they lost that game last week. Doesn't mean that they are out of it. They just can't lose anymore. Kansas State, we will see if Kansas State is a contender or a pretender once they get done with Colorado. And that was the rankings for week 6 in the CFB. So now we're going to get to what if the playoffs were pardon me. Let's get to the games of the week first. Games of the week. Okay, so some of the games of the week, and this is according to the Courier Journal. SMU at Louisville. Heavy on the Louisville side. Talented team. Michigan versus Washington. Overwhelmingly Michigan, even though the spread has given Washington a slight advantage. Missouri versus Texas A&M. You will see if this really curious Missouri team is a contender or a pretender this week. Texas A&M will give them all they can handle and stand. I don't know if I like this particular game. Boston College, Virginia. I'm not sure how much bearing that has on anything. I might have put Ohio State, Iowa there. But they have Boston College taking care of business in a major way. I agree. And then North Carolina, Pitt. I think that's even. I think it'll be a barn burner and a shootout because of the way that the two teams play offense. So that is your matchups for the week. Some other interesting ones. Let's watch that Indiana. Let's watch that undefeated Indiana team this week. They'll be interesting to watch. Let's watch that undefeated Penn State team this week. They'll be interesting to watch. And let's watch Iowa, Ohio State this week. That will be very interesting to watch. Hey, everybody at home, if you have a team that you want to have on your radar, that you want us to watch and report on the Big House Breakdown College Football Show, you let us know. Put it in the chat. We'll discuss it. You can also come on in. The water's fine. If you want to jump in and talk your ish about your favorite team, the link is on the bottom as we're going through college football now. Once we get into the actual breakdown of the Michigan-Washington game, you can also come in. I'll make it a ticker on the bottom. But you want to make sure that you're in and you're participating and on the stage as the show begins. So, with all of that being said, I hope you guys are in tune. I hope you guys are rocking with the BHB and the place to be. We are everything you need. We are the BHB, Big House Breakdown. All right, so if the college football playoffs started today, this is what we would have, okay? Because this is the first year with the new format, right? Everybody's rocking. Everybody's so excited. I'm so excited, right? So you're so excited about the 12-team playoff format. And this is what it would look like if the playoffs started today and the bowl system was turned upside down and made into a playoff-style, round-robin type of format with 12 teams in it, okay? So, nope, that's not what we want. Wrong show. All right, here we go. So, the first round of the playoff will be on Friday, December 20th, right? December 21st. Another one on December 21st. So 4, 1 on December 20th, and 3 on December 21st. ABC will host one, ESPN, TNT, and ESPN, ABC. So they'll split. ESPN and TNT will split the coverage on those games for the first round. And for the playoff quarterfinals, this is where the bowls come in. So they don't want to waste the magnanimous nature of the bowls, especially the big ones. So they're going to put Tuesday, December. Let me enlarge it because sometimes I can't even see it. Okay, so Tuesday, December 31st would be the Fiesta Bowl. Then January 1st, hosted by ESPN at 1 p.m., will be a Peach Bowl, Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Then January 1st at 5 p.m. will be the Rose Bowl. And then January 1st at 8 or damn near 9 o'clock will be the All-State Sugar Bowl. That's a lot of college football in one day. Then you have the playoff scenario where you have ESPN doing the Orange Bowl on January 9th. And then by January 10th, the Cotton Bowl, hosted by ESPN. ESPN is, gonna they're gonna pimp bowl games, right? They're all hosted by ESPN, right? That's that SEC love, right? And then whatever happens out of that process of elimination, the last two teams will take place on ESPN on January 20th for the national championship. Now, who would be in it right now if the playoffs were today? Where we're sitting at in week 5, who would be in the running to be in the college football playoff, as it were? Let's check it out. So we got our map here, and I believe this is by Yahoo Sports. This is not the Big House Breakdowns map. I will have one up for you next week, but this week this is Yahoo's, right? So this is their CFB playoff picture. They think Alabama will win the SEC. They think Iowa State is going to be the at-large Power 4, at-large group of 5 team. They think Ohio State is going to win the Big Ten because they get the bye. So all these teams have byes. And they think Miami is going to win their division, ACC, and have a bye. Very interesting. So now it goes, if you're looking at the top left corner and you're seeing the Ohio State bracket, you're looking at Georgia and Missouri making it to play Ohio State, okay, in the Rose Bowl. And then the winner of Tennessee, Michigan, which is very interesting, will play Miami. Now that, I believe if Michigan gets in that position, they can beat both of those teams because they would have seen enough widespread passing teams throughout the year to deal with them. Now we're looking at Oregon and Penn State, with the winner playing Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, and then you got Texas and Boise with the winner playing Iowa State. This leads a clear path for Texas, in my opinion, to jump right into the quarterfinals, and make it to a Fiesta Bowl appearance, and then perhaps a, January 10th appearance. I believe that's what it was. Yeah. So there you have it. Now, this points out some interesting scenarios. This really says that the Big Ten is top heavy with Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State in, and the SEC is top heavy with Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, and Missouri. That's 5 teams from the SEC. And then you get 2 group of 5 teams in there. What do you guys think at home? What do you guys think of this? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you like who Yahoo Sports predicted to be in the college football playoff if it were today? If you don't, put it in the chat. Let us know where you're at. Tell us on the BHB what you think. Let's break it down. So that's all on that end, man. So let's get to the actual game. Okay, let's start breaking down Michigan at Washington. Okay, so Michigan goes all the way to the West Coast to play Washington. Michigan is 4-1. Washington is 3-2. They play at 7:30, a night game. Ooh, that's kind of interesting for Michigan. And it'll be on Peacock. So I'm not sure what announcers they're gonna have for that, but it'll be on Peacock and some NBC outlets. So you're gonna have to have those things to have those streaming services in order to catch that game. It should be a good one. Washington features a lot of firepower, and let's get into that with matchups. All right, matchups. So matchups is the opportunity for us to talk about the upcoming game that's on the Michigan schedule, where the future opponent that they're going to play in the Washington Huskies, and we're going to break it down by position. We're going to talk about some featured people per position, whether Michigan is lesser or greater per position, and then that should give us a really good purview as to how we're going to move forward with the analysis of this matchup, of this game. No crap analysis, just that callousness, that hardcore football information. All right, so Michigan versus Washington. For Washington, they feature Will Rogers, right, at quarterback. Will Rogers is a competent passer. I wouldn't say he's a Miller Moss, and I wouldn't say he's like the Texas quarterback, but he's a competent passer. And they run that up-tempo offense, so it's easy. He doesn't feature any interceptions on the year, but he's going to play a different beast in this Michigan team. Will Johnson will be back. Jair Hill is really stepping into his own. He can get it to these receivers. He really can. He throws kind of a Cade McNamara type of ball. It doesn't have a ton of zip on it. It's not a Michael Vick ball, but it's a competent ball. It'll get where it needs to go. Michigan features Alex Orji. Alex Orji has a rocket for an arm. He just does not have the snaps and the comfortability passing wise in the offense just yet. But what he can make up for with his legs, what he can't do with his arm, he can make up for with his legs. And when he can combine the two, when he finally finds that sweet spot to combine his legs and his arm, perhaps with some pump fakes and some, design runs, and some, taking advantage of 7 and 8 man boxes, getting one-on-one matchups. Those things are going to naturally show themselves and become open, and he'll be able to take advantage of those things once he has more opportunities to lead drives where he's just passing the football in spread formations and looking for running lanes, a la JJ. I remember we played, had to be Nebraska, where JJ went off just scrambling and running up the gut and doing different creative things on the run with the football. Or you can do the exact same thing. It's just a matter of getting that engine, getting that passing offense with a harmony enough to make that happen. Stop saying we got to replace Orji. Orji threw an interception last week. So the ratio of Davis Warren to Orji is 6-1. The team is motivated under Orji. They believe in him. They believe in his skill sets. They think that he can be that X factor, that kind of, miscellaneous, uncanny talent along with his passing, because they know he could throw the ball a ton. He could throw that ball to the moon if he wanted to. This is why he became a Division I quarterback at Michigan. What am I going to say about this? Will Rogers can't run. Alex Orji can. Alex Orji struggles in passing. Will Rogers excels in passing. If Alex Orji doesn't throw an interception this week, there's more than one way to win at the quarterback position. I think I'm going to call this matchup even though Will Rogers has thrown for much more yards than Alex Orji. So the average college football enthusiast would say, "Yo, how you gonna take Orji over this dude?" And Orji threw a couple of pass touchdowns this year already. If you remember, he threw one to Donovan Edwards, little play action rollout, and he threw another one to Hogan Hansen. So, Orji does have some passing touchdowns this year. Don't poo-poo that. That happened. You know what I mean? That happened. Like, let's really put it out there with what really transpired during the season. I'm gonna call it even, man. I'm gonna call it even. I'm gonna call that matchup even because what Orji does with his legs, I think Will Rogers does with his arm. And that's where I am with that. So that matchup, I'm going to call even. Why running backs? I'm going to give it features Jonah Coleman for the Washington Huskies. He's their main bell cow. He ran for 140 yards last week versus, I believe it was Rutgers. And his best input, his best output of the season so far, averaging 7 yards a carry. And then you got Khalil Mullins and Donovan Edwards. Donovan is that multi-purpose guy, speed and space. And Khalil Mullins has shown up to be the bell cow. He's shown up to be that every down bruiser that you need. I like to call him Monster Mullins because he gets in there and tears it up. Defense can't hold him. And with the three-headed running monster in the backfield, that is the Michigan offense, Orji freezes 3 or 4 people on the line every time he does that read option setup when he begins a running play. And Michigan is very interesting that way because they do it in a way that makes it look like even if they're running split zone, even if they're running duo, even if they're running zone reads, powers, counters, they're doing it off of a read look. So middle linebackers are frozen a step. Safeties are frozen a step. And then by the middle of the second quarter, early third quarter, you're looking at 7-8 man boxes because Monster Mullins, Khalil Mullins, has, chewed up the defense already. And they got to stop that if they want to have a chance at their offense seeing the field in any quarter because Michigan wants to gobble up, the time of possession. So what I would say is the uncanny piece that could bust this game wide open from a running back position is Donovan Edwards. And the reason I say that is because Washington's defensive line is really thin. They're 1 techniques, they're 2 techniques, they're really down in their depth of their roster, playing people who really shouldn't be getting that many snaps at those positions. And if Donovan can get a crack, he's speed and space. That's 7. Nobody's catching him in the entire college football universe. So I think we might get one of those this week. I don't know if we'll get 2 like we did in the championship game last season. But I think we may get one, and I think it may come out of a passing attempt. So I'm going to give Michigan's backfield the BOD in that matchup and the advantage in that matchup because I just think they do more with what they have. And then if you also include Benjamin Hall, he's a bruiser, he runs really, really hard. Reminds me of Tim Bianca Batuka, one of those one cut downhill runners. He's a load to tackle as well. So we got a lot of depth there. Don't know if we're going to see the freshman phenom Jordan Marshall. Would love to see that, but I don't think we're going to see it this year. So the edge for running back goes to Michigan. Wide receiver. Michigan has been struggling all year long to find an identity in the passing game. The wide receivers will make some possession receptions. Colston Loveland is a nightmare for any team that he plays. He runs like a wide receiver, but he's a 250-pound tight end who's 6'5". So just his pure size creates matchup problems for DB safeties and corners, and then he creates matchup problems with his speed for linebackers. So, and bulky nickel backs, to contend with. So I'm going to have to make him part of the passing game for Michigan because he's back this week, even though he's dealing with a nagging little shoulder thing. And, he's our leading receiver, even though he missed the USC game this year. So he'll have about 7 receptions. Who we have to get involved in the passing fray is Samaj Morgan and Freddie Moore. I think those two guys can be home run hitters if you get them on those drag routes and you hit them at the end of the drag route so that they can get that yak up the field. Now, Washington's crew features Denzel Boston, Jeremiah Hunter, and Giles Jackson. Now, you guys might have remembered Giles Jackson because he was a Michigan man at one point, and then he transferred out and went to Washington. And he has done really great things. He broke Larry Fitzgerald's record for most receptions in a game. And then, of course, Denzel, let me look at his name again. Denzel Boston. Denzel Washington rolls off the tongue. So Denzel Boston leads the team in touchdowns as a receiver. And then when they come out in their 3-on-1s and 4 2-on-2s as receivers, they feature Jeremiah Hunter, and they also feature Camden Simon, and Rasheed Williams. So I'm going to give the edge to the Washington offense because that's kind of the nature of what they do. They're a quick tempo. They're up-tempo, quick offense. They like to get it in. They like to punch it downfield fast. Michigan has problems with that. But as far as this matchup goes, the productivity from the wide receivers is much better than Michigan has. So we'll include tight ends with. And by the way, Washington does feature a really good tight end by the name of Kaleki Lotu or Lofu. Lotu, yeah. Kaleki Lotu, right? He's a solid tight end. He's a dependable tight end. He'll get you 8. He'll get you a first. Dependable, good inline blocker. He'll do some good things for you in pass pro. So that's another thing for the likes of Jayshon Barham to contend with in that Robber 6 coverage, right? So let's go to O-line. Now, this is where Michigan can make hay because I believe they can dominate. Michigan's defensive line can dominate Washington's offensive line because although they're a good run blocking group, we have some beasts on the inside. Josiah Stewart is really good at run defense, and so is Derek Moore. Passing wise, though, I believe that's the reason they go up tempo because when you go up tempo as an offense, and that's the number one philosophy of your offense, or you do it a lot, it's indicative of not really having great protection or having the bodies to protect you up front. So you have to go up tempo, and that doesn't allow your linemen to have to block for very long. 1, 2, 3, the ball's out. One step, ball's out. You know what I mean? So you can hold up at the point of attack a lot better, and you can cover up some holes in pass protection. But when you have All-American Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Josiah Stewart, Derek Moore, all those dudes should go first round, if not top of the second round in the NFL draft next year. That whole crew should go. That's going to be a hard task to ask for, to hold up all game long against that particular grouping. And if any of those linemen are left from last year, you know, Mason Grant and Kenneth Grant treated those dudes like rag dolls. So therefore, you know, Michigan can exploit some weaknesses. They have plenty of weaknesses up front, especially that left guard and the right tackle. So when I do my review, I'll get into a told you so segment when we see Josiah Stewart eat off that right tackle, and then we see Kenneth Grant eat off that left guard. And we'll see. We'll see how they're built playing a real ball club that's battle tested like Michigan. And then the Michigan offensive line has some injuries. Miles Hinton is dealing with a nagging injury that he's trying to get over from last week's game against Minnesota late. And he will be replaced by Percy. And then we got Evan Link on the outside. Those two are really trying to acclimate themselves to the offensive line unit. And then I wish they would just go ahead and start Crippen and not play Dom Jadis early, just to have to go to Crippen late. Play Dom Jadis early. Play Crippen early. Play him throughout the entire game. Keep Jadis as a reserve and let the offensive line click. It seems like Crippen is better at calling out protections and getting the offensive line focused to do what they need to do. I like the philosophy that we're leaning on the run game this year, even more than last year, perhaps in some ways. 47 runs in one game this year. If the coaches let them level set that way, this offensive line will find its water, and it will be tough to contend with because we recruited these guys as offensive line maulers. We didn't recruit these guys to be finesse pass protectors. Can they pass protect? Yes. But we didn't recruit them for that. And we don't really even need them for that. We just need them we need some RPOs out of the offense. Who's better at what they do when they get it rolling? Michigan has the better record, which is indicative of more cohesion on the offensive line because, of course, you have to score points in order to win. So I'm going to go with Michigan as the edge in that particular matchup. So defensive line, Washington has some injuries on the interior of their defensive line. That's going to put a lot of pressure on their edges. We have Khalil Mullins that specializes in 7 yards of carry, running up the gut. So if you get Monster Mullins running at bench players up the gut, that bodes well for us running behind Giovanni Ohadi and Josh Preeb. Those two are really good run blockers for what it's worth. And our bread is going to be buttered that way. I'm going with the offensive line edge going to Michigan because of our style of play and because of who our counterparts will be against us. And that brings us right into defensive line. Once again, Washington's defensive line is injured, and Michigan's defensive line is getting their injured back. Graham and Grant are having a really great season when they're not winded. So I hope we did some things in practice to shore up conditioning a little bit more. So if the teams go up tempo on our defensive line, we're not huffing and puffing. And then hopefully some of our reserves outside of Rajon Benny can finally, Cameron Brandt, I'm talking to you, and Etta, I'm talking to you. You dudes need to step up and make an impact like Cam Good made for us last season. So, but overall, if we're talking about starter for starter, I'm giving the edge to the defensive line of Michigan because they got game records at all four positions on the defensive line, and they showed that versus USC, and they showed that throughout the season, but especially the first, and especially three of the games that we won, they really pinned their ears back and went nuts. Like the Prince song, Let's Go Crazy. They went crazy. Anyway, so now we're talking about linebackers. Michigan features Jayshon Barham, which is the really athletic, adrenaline-filled linebacker that can run side to side. Reminds me a lot of Jonathan Vilma from Miami. His talent set, but he needs to put it all together. He needs to have a total game, put it all together. Coverage, rushing the passer. What I want to see him improve on now more than ever, and he'll have a good matchup versus Coleman, the running back for Washington, is see ball, get ball. Go downhill as a linebacker. I had that problem in college because in high school, I was so much stronger than everybody that all I had to do was go side to side, and I would just gobble up anybody who came through the hole. I took 2 steps in, boom, I seen it, gobbled it up. Red guard, see ball, get ball. But when I went to college, I was told that I had to go flow more downhill. If you see the ball running away, pulling guard, so on and so forth, jump in that backside hole, meet the play before it happens. I want to see Jayshon Barham do that sort of thing. Live up to the Devin Bush comparison. If you want to fill shoes like Devin Bush, this week's game is a game to do it. If you stop Washington and make them one-dimensional, that bodes well for what we can do with our trick coverages from Wink Martindale. He has help in Ernest the Hammer Hausman, is what I like to call him, who's improving every week. I think he's probably going to wind up being Michigan's lead tackler and Michigan's most electric linebacker. He sniffed out a screenplay last week that was out of control. Reminded me of myself, but it also reminds me of like a Ray Lewis style, play recognition. And then Washington features one really standout backer in Alfonso Tuputala, Samoan, and he's really good. He's learned really well. He's learned to balance himself and be a very productive linebacker. But when we run duo and when we run our zone schemes, I think he's going to get gobbled up in the wash, and he's going to be a collateral damage to Michigan's running game. Just through, war of attrition, If you're running 40 running plays a game, that middle linebacker is going to have some damage. Them forearms and them fingers and them elbows are going to take some damage over the course of a game. And then by the fourth quarter, you got alligator arms. You don't want to tackle as much. So edge goes to linebacker, goes to Michigan. Now DBs. Michigan is getting back the All-American Will Johnson this week. Already has 2 picks for touchdowns, 2 pick sixes for touchdowns on the season. Will Johnson is really good diagnosing pass plays. He's a studier. He's a student of the game. So if he studied his tail off this week and he knows Washington wants to do that quick game, he may come up with 2 or 3 interceptions. If he comes up with 3 interceptions versus Washington, he's a top 5 NFL draft pick. Pencil it in. Not to mention, if he comes up with a pick 6 at some point this week, you know, top 5 draft pick. Pencil it in. Jair Hill is becoming more and more comfortable with his outstanding 4-star, 5-star talent set, and he is getting interceptions and becoming a lights out style corner. What we need from our secondary is more improved play out of our safeties. Last week, they gave up some deep shots that we didn't really need to give up, and it made the game look a lot more out of control than it actually was in the fourth quarter against Minnesota. So, and then, of course, Washington's DBs are very good. They're 2 corners. They feature Jordan Shaw. They feature Ephesian Prylak, and they also feature Thaddeus Dixon. Thaddeus Dixon is the junior transfer. Shaw is what does that say? Freshman transfer. And then Prylak is is a junior transfer. So they got some scrappy people, man. And then, of course, they feature Broussard, which is their best safety. Very physical kid. So he diagnoses and plays with his head over his skis, meaning he's coming down into that box, making business decisions. So let's get into the eye test. I didn't give my edge matchup. Okay, so I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Producer. I didn't give my edge matchup. If I know what I know about the Michigan secondary and Zeke Berry, didn't forget about Zeke Berry at nickel, Amir Hall and Johnson as backups, we can get some turnovers this week. And I believe the Michigan secondary, if they study the quick game enough and they tackle in space enough, they have to tackle in space. They have to get hands on receivers this week. We need Brandon Hillman to come downhill and put that boom boom on people. We need Quentin Johnson to come downhill and put that hit stick on people. And we need Makari Page to be that true free safety, scrape and make interceptions. You know, in those large cover 2 drops, those wide cover 2 drops, those 4s, those rotating coverages, those spy coverages. So if we get that this week, I believe that Michigan's secondary is just a tad bit better because of the game breaker Will Johnson and Jair Hill able to cover Giles Jackson and Denzel Boston. I think they're going to have to rely on some of the more insider receivers like their tight end and their, middle receiver to run inside and gain them the yards that they need. They may even have to get their running backs in the passing tree in order to make some damage there. Now, sorry that I jumped the gun a little bit before. Let's get into the eye test, because the eye in the sky don't lie, right? The eye in the sky don't lie. So it's the State of the Union at weeks 6 of both teams. So Washington is 3-2. Michigan is 4-1. Both teams are middling. Michigan has found their identity. They have improvements to make. I think Washington found their identity. I don't know how solid that identity is because their O-line gets a little skittish against really good defensive lines. And the health of Washington's front is going to be pivotal going forward for them to complete this Big Ten schedule. So now Michigan has things they have to overcome as well. They have to overcome poor halftime adjustments. They have to overcome better conditioning so that they can last and play a full 4-quarter game. And they also have to overcome injuries. And getting more out of their depth, more out of the Cameron Brandts of the world, more out of the TJ Guys of the world, more out of the Eno Eddas and all of those dudes. I mean, Rajon Benny is a dude, but we need them dudes. We need them other bench players to step up, be in their proper run fits, contribute to the passing game, put pressure on the quarterback, and because if they go up tempo against us, our subs have to be just as good as our starters, or at least hold water. You know what I mean? Like our starters would hold water. And if Washington goes up tempo, there's many, many ways to beat an up tempo offense, which is why a lot of teams don't do it. They may do it like going into the half. They may do it going into going into the fourth quarter when the clock is against them. But they don't do it for a full game, and these are the reasons why. It's really easy to beat an up tempo, quick offense. Number one, there's a lot of reasons. The passing game has to have a lot of team chemistry, offensive chemistry, in order for it to work. Quarterback has to be on time. Receivers have to be on time. Offensive line has to block. And like I told you before, if you're running up tempo, that's a clear sign. If you know any type of ball or coached any type of football, you know that up tempo usually means that you can't pass block really well or for long periods of time. So, with that being said, to beat an up tempo quick offense, you have to bat passes down at the line of scrimmage. You have to bring the hit stick. That means you have to intimidate the receivers by hitting them, right? Bring the wood. You know what I mean? A la Ed Reed, a la Sean. What's the Washington Redskins legendary safety? Sean. Let's just say Ronnie Lott. Steve Atwater style, right? So you got to bring the wood, right? Then you got to get hands-on routes with receivers, whether it's zone, man, catch, release, whatever the point of attack is. You got to get hands-on receivers. You can't let receivers just have free releases up the field like this era of football is doing right now. This era of football believes that the corners are just as athletic as the wide receivers and the running backs. So therefore, I can run with dude and I can make these athletic defensive plays. But if you're running a quick game, you're talking about things that are no more than 5 to 8 to 10-yard passes. Maybe even 12 if you're talking about some sort of seam or dig, right? So, and then what they do to follow up a quick game is they'll do like a double move, an in and out, an out and up, those sorts of things. A slant and go, what do you call that? A sluggo. They'll do those sorts of routes. A pin and dagger. They'll do those sorts of routes in order to complement the quick game. So the way that you defend that is you get the hit stick up, you bat passes at the line of scrimmage, you get hands-on routes, nobody gets free releases. There's other ways that you can combat those quick passing offense. Sure tackling, because quick passing offenses feature scrappy wide receivers that get a lot of yards after the catch. So you want to limit yards after catch with sure tackling. Michigan can do that. They've done it before. They need to do it again. You can also disguise your coverages, which make a quick passing offense believe something is there that's not there. Like, in other words, you can come out like in a bear front and give Will Rogers the impression that he got a hot read, and then you dropping 6 back underneath, and now you giving somebody like a Will Johnson an inside pick, and he's going to the house with that. He's reading 1 through 2. He's going to pick that ball if you throw a quick screen, a slant, or some sort of comeback route, right? So there's a lot of ways to beat, and this is the reason why they don't run quick tempo offenses that much, because there's a lot of ways to beat it. You can also, I wrote a lot of notes here, you can also blitz the A-gap, right? That speeds up the quarterback's clock and gets him more uncomfortable outside of the 3-step drop that he has to take, the 1-step drop that he has to take, or even, you know, that pivot in the gun that he has to take, that kick step out of the gun or out of shotgun. So yeah, terrorize the A gap. Yeah, I said that. I said that. Okay, I just want to make sure I covered all my bases about how to defeat a quick tempo offense. So what does the eye in the sky tell me? The eye in the sky tells me that if Michigan brings out the boa constrictor, they eat up time of possession, they run the ball with Khalil Mullins and Donovan Edwards. Mullins has 7 yards to carry. Michigan dominates the clock in 3 out of the 4 games that they played. 3 out of the 5 games that they played this year. If they persist with that style, it will keep the Washington offense off the field, and it will lead to them pressing, and they will have to get out of that up tempo style because they'll have to get the ball further down the field faster. They'll have to take more chunk yardage type of passing plays. And then, of course, that allows our defensive ends, our really great defensive line, to pin their ears back and go hunting, go big game hunting for quarterbacks. I don't know if that quick game up tempo offense is sustainable. Michigan has to tackle Jonah Coleman. He averages 7 yards a carry as well. So he gives them that balance that they need to have that RPO quick style passing game that they do. Take him away, you make them one-dimensional. The eye in the sky is telling me that Michigan has the edge in this game as a total team concept because they can take things away from Washington that Washington cannot take away. Michigan can take away Washington's strength, whereas Washington cannot take away Michigan's strength because their defensive unit has injuries on it. And it's going to be a physical game for Washington. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the late third quarter, just like you saw with Minnesota, you saw dudes rolling up on the turf. They holding, they gassed, they holding, they cramping, they holding fingers, they padding forearms, forearms are sore, fingers are banged up. You playing that run style offense, you playing against a run style offense like Michigan's that likes to smash, smash, smash all game long, regardless of game conditions and scenarios. It's a lot of pressure on the defensive unit to keep up with that. All right. So, eye in the sky, state of Michigan, state of Washington. The eye in the sky tells me that Michigan has the great advantage in this game moving forward. Now we're gonna go to hot take, right? And I gave away a lot of my. Sorry about that. I gave away a lot of my hot take early from what you just heard. I think Michigan needs to bang, 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 but also bang with Orgy. I think Orgy needs some design runs, and I think they need to. I like what they did with the split zone, but then I think split zone should be a setup for a pro style read option where Orgy keeps it, because Michigan has to put more complementary plays together in a better fashion in the third quarter so that once they have a lead, a 10-point, 13-point lead or so, we can maintain it and we don't have the threat of teams coming back on us. So we need more complementary plays. That means better halftime adjustments. That means the coaching staff is actually scouting the team during the first half, getting critical information back, making adjustments, and then the team is coming out in the second half and putting complementary plays, running complementary plays off of their base offensive plays, off their base game plan. We get that, we'll be in business against a team like the Washington Huskies. If we take a deep shot, I like the running back circle again, only because Broussard as the safety on Washington can't be at all places at all times. So if you're going to split out Colston Loveland to the flats or to the boundary, that safety Broussard is going to go over where Colston Loveland is. And then you can run your running back circle with Klein, and or you can even run it with Samaj and Donovan Edwards. And this time actually hit Donovan Edwards in the circle, and boom, you got your chunk passing plays. I think Michigan is kind of go right there. I think Michigan is right there with their passing game. They're right there in a position to take another step, have 150-yard passing effort if they put it all together and they have it make sense. Do I think Washington will score some points in this game? I do think so. I do think so. What I think can happen though is what happened versus, I believe it was Fresno, where our defensive linemen, Kenneth Grant, Cameron Brandt, and such can get their hands up, bat some passes down, and create some cheap turnovers, giving our offense a short field, helping us flip the field, or even just giving us an extra possession. You give us an extra possession in the third quarter, we win the game because we're going to milk the clock. Give us an extra possession in the fourth quarter, or a lazy screen pass or a lazy quick game RPO style pass. We intercept that thing. That's ball game because they're not going to see the ball again. Versus our run offense. So I really believe Michigan has the advantage here. I want to see Michigan take the next step in their passing game. The mission is to stop Jonah Hill and that up-tempo, quick-paced Washington offense. If we can do that, we'll get this thing wrapped up nice, neatly with a bow. And please, for the love of cheese and crackers, can we get something out of our special teams? Can we flip the field with the punt return game? Can we flip the field with the kick return game? Can we do those things? And last week, we almost had 2 special teams errors. We almost gave up a punt return, and we almost gave up an onside a kick return from our hands unit. Our hands unit messed up. So if it wasn't for that penalty, they would have had the ball and maybe even won the game. That would have been such a letdown based on how we played the other 3.5 quarters of the game. So let's get something out of this special teams unit. Let's put our burners back there. Let's run some design plays. I would even like to see some trick plays to take advantage of this Washington team, their scrappy DBs and their momentum. So if their DBs are coming downhill with a lot of momentum, run some misdirection, some motion, run some trick special teams unit plays. Give our ball control offense a edge going into this one. So prediction time. I got Michigan winning 27. I think that's all the points you need to beat this Washington team. I see Michigan winning 27-14. I don't know how much Washington is going to get done this game because I think we're going to win on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I think our offensive line is going to dominate in the running game, and I think our defensive line is going to dominate against the pass, and provide some real, chaos for that Washington offensive line and Will Rogers. He'll get that ball out fast. We have to tackle. If Hillman comes downhill and lays the wood, if Quentin Johnson comes down and lays the wood, and we tackle in a sound way with Zeke Berry and Makari Page, we will be in great shape to lock this game up. That's what we need to do. And I believe we can do it. I believe we're going to do it. And I believe Michigan has the tools that they need. And they're getting their injured back in a great space to be very, I guess, have all they, bust all their guns when they need their guns to be bust off. When they need their guns to bust, they're getting their guns to bust against a good Washington team. And I believe we can overwhelm them. I think Wink Martindale, from a scheme perspective, I think Washington has a good scheme. I think Wink Martindale's scheme should bait them into some poor decisions from the RPO quick game perspective. And we got to be able to get those substitutions and that up tempo style of offense handled. I hope they practice against it. I hope they went through it and they walked through so they can recognize it and they can get their peoples in. And of course, pardon me, I believe that the crowd will be raucous in Washington, and I think we'll have an opportunity. We should be practicing some signals that allows us to deal with that raucous crowd. You know what I'm saying? It allows us to be better. It allows us to communicate well. We got to communicate well against teams like this. And yeah, that's all I got. So I got Michigan winning this one, 27-14, maybe even 27-10. We just can't give up those slot possession receptions and letting teams matriculate up the field. So we'll see. We'll be back on Sunday to review the game. And, we'll be going hail to the victors. And as always, go blue. Like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you comment on what you're seeing so that we can have a great big house breakdown. We could break it down so it could forever be broke. Go blue.